still remember the sound of the buzzer echoing through the empty gym. 4 in the morning, no cameras, no fans, no teammates. Just me, the ball, and the truth that awaited me with each shot. The squeak of my shoes against the polished hardwood. The rhythm of my breathing cutting through the silence. The sweat already forming on my brow before most people had even stirred in their beds. You think you know my story. 5 championships, 81 points in a single game. The accolades that defined a career, but what you saw on the court was only the final product. What you never witnessed were the thousands of mornings just like this one. The moments that truly forged my confidence. I am Kobe Bryant. What I share with you today isn't about basketball techniques or strategies. It's about something far more valuable, the 7 principles that built an unshakable mind. A mind that could face any challenge, any doubt, any failure, and remain steadfast. These principles weren't given to me. I had to discover them, often painfully, through trial and error, through moments of devastating failure and exhilarating success, through torn ligaments and broken fingers, through game-winning shots and heartbreaking misses, through championships and eliminations, through the highest peaks of adoration and the lowest valleys of criticism. You see, confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build, deliberately, methodically, day after day. Like a master craftsman carving a sculpture from marble, true confidence emerges only when you're willing to chip away everything that isn't serving your greatness. Most people misunderstand confidence. They think it's about never feeling fear, never experiencing doubt. That's not confidence, that's delusion. And delusions shatter the moment reality tests them. Real confidence is knowing exactly what you're capable of because you've pushed your limits thousands of times when no one was watching. It's about facing your fears so often that they become familiar companions rather than terrifying strangers. It's about understanding that the voice in your head, the one telling you that you're not good enough, not talented enough, not deserving enough, that voice is the real opponent. And I'm gonna teach you how to defeat it. Not by silencing it, not by ignoring it, but by transforming your relationship with it. When I was 13 years old, playing in a summer league in Philadelphia, I failed to score a single point. Not one basket, not one free throw, nothing. 0 points for an entire summer. Most kids would have quit. Most parents would have encouraged them to try something else, but my father saw something in my eyes that night as I sat silently in the car on the ride home. Not tears, not defeat, but a question. How do I make sure this never happens again? How do I transform this humiliation into fuel? How do I use this moment not as evidence of my limitations, but as a starting point for my evolution? That moment was my awakening, the beginning of what would become the Mamba mentality. I didn't know it then, but that summer of 0 points would become more valuable to my development than any championship. Because in that moment, I discovered the first and most fundamental truth about confidence. It isn't given. It's earned through a commitment few are willing to make. A commitment to face your weaknesses head on. A commitment to work when others rest. A commitment to stay in the gym when your body is screaming for you to leave. A commitment to push through the voice in your head that says enough and find what lies on the other side. Are you ready to make that commitment? Because what I'm about to share with you isn't just about basketball. It's not even just about success. It's about the war that's been raging in your mind every single day of your life. A war most people never even realize they're losing. A war between your highest potential and your deepest fears. Between what you're capable of becoming and what you're comfortable remaining. I fought this war for 2 decades on the world's biggest stages, with millions watching my every move, judging my every decision. And these 7 principles were my weapons, the tools that allowed me to conquer not just opponents, but the most formidable adversary any of us will ever face, ourselves. The first principle I discovered wasn't on the court. It was in the pre-dawn darkness of my bedroom as I stared at the ceiling, contemplating whether to get up for another training session when every muscle ached from yesterday's work. This is where I discovered the principle of ruthless accountability. Most people have a complicated relationship with accountability. They want the rewards of success without the responsibility of their failures. True confidence begins with this simple but painful truth. You are exactly where you've chosen to be. Not where you wish you were, not where you could be if circumstances were different, but precisely where your decisions, your habits, and your priorities have led you. The moment you fully embrace this reality that you alone are responsible for your development, something powerful happens. Excuses die, blame evaporates, and in their place grows the first seed of genuine confidence. I remember missing a crucial shot in a playoff game against the Phoenix Suns. The last shot, Game 7. The entire season condensed into that single moment, and I failed. The media crucified me. Fans questioned my ability, but in the solitude of my training facility the next morning, I didn't blame the pick that wasn't set properly, or the defender who might have fouled me, or the exhaustion from playing 46 minutes. Instead, I asked myself one question: what could I have done better? That question became my North Star, not because it was comfortable, it rarely was, but because it placed the power squarely in my hands, and that's what accountability gives you: power. The power to transform instead of just complain, the power to evolve instead of just exist, the power to build real confidence instead of the fragile ego that collapses at the first sign of adversity. This leads directly to the second principle: relentless preparation. Most people think preparation is about gaining advantage, but true preparation is about eliminating doubt. When I stepped onto the court for a championship game with everything on the line, my mind wasn't clouded with uncertainty. Why? Because I had already taken that shot 50,000 times in practice. I had already played that game countless times in my mind. I had already faced every possible scenario and rehearsed my response. My preparation was so thorough that it eliminated the space where doubt could live. This is what few understand about confidence. Is not the absence of fear, but the certainty that you've done everything possible to prepare for the challenge ahead. The sweat you put in when no one is watching becomes the confidence you radiate when everyone is watching. I trained when others slept, studied film when others partied, practiced injured when others rested. Not because I enjoyed pain or isolation, but because I understood something fundamental about the human mind. We don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training. When pressure mounts, when stakes rise, when fear creeps in, you don't rise to the occasion. You sink to the foundation of your preparation. Ask yourself this question: are you preparing at a level that eliminates the possibility of doubt when your moment arrives? Or are you leaving space for that deadly whisper to enter your mind? Am I really ready for this? The third principle crystallized for me during one of the darkest periods of my career. After tearing my Achilles tendon, an injury that ends most careers, I found myself facing an enemy more formidable than any defender I'd ever encountered: my own limitations. This is where I discovered the principle of comfortable discomfort. Most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort. They build routines, relationships, and entire careers designed to minimize pain and maximize comfort. But here's what I learned through rehabilitation, through countless hours of excruciating physical therapy. Discomfort is the only path to growth. The edge of your ability, that uncomfortable space where failure is not just possible but likely, that's where real confidence is forged. I had to relearn basic movements. I had to accept being less than what I once was while working to become something new. Each morning began with the humbling recognition of my limitations, followed by the deliberate decision to push just slightly beyond them, not recklessly, but methodically. Each day embracing a slightly larger dose of discomfort than the day before. True confidence isn't built in the center of your comfort zone. is built at the edge where your desire meets your doubt, where your ambition meets your fear, where your potential meets your limitations. Most never venture to this edge. They mistake comfort for confidence, stability for strength, but real confidence can only be built through a deliberate relationship with discomfort, not avoiding it, but embracing it as the only path to becoming more than you currently are. This understanding led me to the fourth principle, purposeful identity. Most people define themselves by their performances, their successes and failures, their good days and bad days. This creates a confidence that's as volatile as the stock market, rising and falling with each new result. But unshakable confidence requires a different foundation. I didn't just play basketball. I developed a purposeful identity, Mamba mentality that transcended any single performance. This identity wasn't defined by whether I made or missed a shot. It was defined by the approach, the mindset, the commitment to excellence in every aspect of preparation and performance. This subtle shift changes everything. When your identity is tied to results, failure becomes devastating evidence that you aren't who you thought you were. But when your identity is tied to process and principles, failure becomes informative, simply data to refine your approach. This is the secret to maintaining confidence through inevitable setbacks. You're no longer defending your worth with each performance. You're expressing your identity through your approach to each challenge. Ask yourself, what purposeful identity are you cultivating? What principles define you beyond your results? When you build your confidence on the foundation of who you're committed to being rather than what you happen to achieve on any given day, you create something enduring confidence that can weather any storm of circumstance. The fifth principle emerged during my most dominant years on the court. Counterintuitively, it was then, when success came most frequently, that I discovered one of the most crucial elements of true confidence: objective self-awareness. Most people have a distorted relationship with their own abilities. They either overestimate their talents, creating an ego-based confidence that shatters upon contact with reality, or they underestimate themselves, never fully expressing what they're capable of achieving. True confidence requires ruthless honesty about both your strengths and your weaknesses. I meticulously reviewed game footage not to celebrate made shots, but to understand missed ones. I cataloged defensive lapses with the same intensity that others saved highlight reels. Not out of self-criticism, but out of a commitment to seeing myself objectively as I actually was, not as I wished to be. This principle is counterintuitive because most assume confidence requires focusing only on strengths and achievements. But authentic, unshakable confidence requires the opposite, the ability to confront your weaknesses without being diminished by them, to acknowledge gaps in your ability without questioning your ultimate capability, to see limitations as opportunities rather than indictments. After each game, regardless of the outcome, I would analyze my performance with clinical detachment. 60 points scored meant nothing if my defensive rotations were late. A game-winning shot was still followed by analysis of the misses that preceded it. This wasn't about dwelling on negatives. It was about developing the ultimate confidence that comes from truly knowing that you're addressing every aspect of your craft with complete commitment. Ask yourself, can you face your weaknesses with the same enthusiasm that you celebrate your strengths? Can you separate observation of your performance from judgment of your worth? This is the hallmark of objective self-awareness and the foundation of authentic confidence that no external critic can shake. The sixth principle revealed itself not in triumph, but in tragedy. After the helicopter crash that took my daughter Gianna's life along with 7 others, the world witnessed what I had been cultivating for decades: transcendent purpose. Most seek confidence within the narrow framework of personal achievement, but the deepest, most enduring confidence emerges when your efforts are connected to something greater than yourself. For years, my drive wasn't just about, winning championships or breaking records. It was about inspiring the next generation, about demonstrating what complete dedication to craft looks like, about leaving a legacy defined by excellence and growth. This transcendent purpose provided a wellspring of confidence that no setback, not injury, not criticism, not failure could diminish. Because even in failure, purpose remained. In the years after my retirement, this purpose crystallized further, developing young athletes, telling stories that inspired, building businesses that created value. My confidence was no longer tied to my physical abilities or achievements, but to the impact I could have on others' journeys. This is the ultimate evolution of confidence from self-centered to purpose-centered. When your confidence is rooted in purpose, rejection becomes redirection. Criticism becomes refinement. Failure becomes education. All because your worth isn't determined by outcomes alone, but by commitment to something that transcends any single result. What transcendent purpose fuels your journey? What contribution gives meaning to your efforts beyond personal gain or recognition? Find this, and you discover a source of confidence that can never be taken from you, by age, by circumstance, or by life's inevitable setbacks. The seventh principle, perhaps the most elusive of all, came to me not in a moment of intensity, but in a rare instant of perfect presence, detached mastery. Most people misunderstand the relationship between caring and confidence. They believe maximum effort requires white-knuckle intensity, gritted teeth, shoulders tense with the weight of expectation. But the highest expression of confidence, what I came to call Mamba mentality, transcends this understanding. True mastery isn't about caring more. It's about caring completely while simultaneously detaching from outcomes. It's about pouring everything you have into preparation and execution while releasing the desperate need for validation that those efforts might bring. This paradoxical balance, to care intensely about your process while detaching from the results it produces, represents the pinnacle of mental strength. I remember the 2010 NBA Finals against the Boston Celtics, Game 7, everything on the line. I was shooting terribly, 6 for 24 from the field. Earlier in my career, this would have shaken my confidence. I would have gripped tighter, tried harder, forced shots in an attempt to break through. But instead, I found a state of detached mastery. I cared completely about each defensive stance, each rebound, each moment of leadership my team needed, while releasing the need for personal scoring validation. This detachment wasn't indifference. It was the ultimate expression of confidence, the ability to stay completely committed to excellence without being controlled by the outcome. To give everything without attaching your worth to the result. To care without the burden of caring. This is what few understand about the highest levels of performance. The tighter you grip, the more elusive excellence becomes. True confidence allows you to prepare with intensity, compete with passion, and then release the outcome to simply be what it will be. Not because you don't care, but because you trust the process that brought you to this moment. These 7 principles, ruthless accountability, relentless preparation, comfortable discomfort, purposeful identity, objective self-awareness, transcendent purpose, and detached mastery weren't theoretical concepts for me. They were hard-won insights forged through early morning workouts when no one was watching. Through rehabilitation sessions that tested the limits of my pain tolerance, through failures on the biggest stages and triumphs under the brightest lights. The confidence they built wasn't the fragile ego that needs constant protection. It was the unshakable self-knowledge that comes from seeing yourself clearly, challenging yourself consistently, and committing yourself completely to becoming more than you currently are. The question isn't whether these principles work. The question is whether you're willing to apply them with the consistency required to transform your own relationship with confidence. Will you embrace accountability even when excuses are available? Will you prepare beyond what seems reasonable? Will you deliberately seek discomfort rather than avoid it? Will you define yourself by principles rather than performances? Will you confront weaknesses with the same enthusiasm as strengths? Will you connect your efforts to something greater than yourself? And will you learn to care completely while detaching from outcomes? Most won't. They'll continue seeking confidence through shortcuts, through validation, through comparison, through carefully curated social media profiles that present strength while hiding vulnerability. But you now know a different path, the path of true confidence that no circumstance can shake because it's built from the inside out. The journey begins with a decision, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, but now in this moment, with a commitment to pursue your own greatness with the same intensity that I pursued mine. The real question isn't whether you can build unstoppable confidence. The real question is, are you willing to do what's required to become the person you're truly capable of being? The answer awaits in the quiet moments when no one is watching, in your choice to prepare one more hour, to face one more fear, to embrace one more discomfort, just as it did for me alone in that empty gym long before the championships, the glory, and the legacy. The moment you commit to these principles is the moment your transformation begins. Mamba out.